Alright, before I get too carried away, I want to show you some other things I've done with this so far, some other adjustments, particularly moving this back. But a few other things before I get too carried away, because I already kind of know where I want to go, but I want to get this over to you. In that garage, it would be nice to know what that framing, some photographs, and whether that slab slopes up from this point or how that slab is related to the one that's under the house, or that was under the house, if that's just one slab or what. So on the height dimension, definitely be nice to know from here to the bottom of that gutter, and from here, I don't know if you can measure to that peak. There's probably cross pieces here. It'd be nice to know where those cross pieces are. I mean, and for that matter, what these members are. If this is steel frame, these might be 2.5 by whatever. So let me know. So we were 5'3.5" too far forward, and I already knew that I didn't like this at all anyway. So I was already going to put a column there. I want to talk real quick about the soffit or the fascia, the cornice. How fancy or not fancy you want that. This is one way to do it, which is kind of the traditional way, where this is a 1x8. Presumably that's fascia is AZEK or something like this, and this is another soffit. It's probably a 1/4 inch vented soffit, but that's a product from Hardy Plank. So this is Hardy and this is Hardy, and this is the solid overframe here. The second way to do it, the less expensive way to do it, and that's what I'm using for now until I hear differently, is this is your vinyl, your vented vinyl soffit down here. This is your overframe. It's all the end of your trusses, and then this is just wrapped with aluminum, comes down and under 1.5 inches. So it's actually something like this, where the overframe goes at the end of the trusses, and the vented vinyl soffit is fastened to the bottom of that, and there's a little U channel back here. You can almost see that holds the back end of it, and that's just tacked to the bottom of these trusses. And this is the little J channel that goes at the top of the siding. So this is the least expensive way, and that's the way I'm doing it for now, unless I hear differently. So you end up with something like this, where this is all aluminum, and this can look good if the aluminum person knows what they're doing. Otherwise, it's the more traditional method I outlined earlier. And this film is, going to be willy-nilly, just dealing with things as I encountered them. So I don't even know how these pictures go. We want to try to maintain a 10-inch heel height at these end here, at the end of these trusses. The next thing I did, and it's not really critical to your decision making, but the next thing I did is tried to model this terrain as close as I could to what exists there. And you have sent over some films, and those will probably clarify some things, but this was before those arrived. I put together this from an available topographic map that had 4-foot elevation intervals. So I built this terrain from this map here, and I have this pretty close to scaled because I have another one underneath this that's another overhead shot, but I'm not, once I know these property line dimensions, I may adjust this terrain a little bit or adjust some other things a little bit. But I built this, this was essentially after I got the terrain built, and I hadn't moved that house back like it's going to be, or taken off the screen porch. But I did some working with this terrain to try to get close to what you had there. And so this is your situation. It kind of looks like that on the maps too, on Google Maps. And the more critical part of all of this terrain bit really is what is exactly happening out back. How far up or down from the planned finished floor level is that land back there. So I'm sure your videos will go some distance to figuring that out a little bit better. We're only going to cover a few other things here. But after I was satisfied that that terrain was good, then I moved this back like you wanted it to 5'3", so that it aligns with this back wall. So it went from that to that, and you can see where I've added the columns here at the porch. And I haven't taken the screen porch off yet. I want to make sure that that was going to be a go, and I need to find out what kind of door and so forth that you wanted on that. And you're right, I like those stairs up against the garage like that particularly. And I wanted to mention, as we go through these with these various textures, the roof color, the siding color, the trim type of application, feel free to let me know in which direction you want to go with some of that. I guess one critical question is the garage metal roof going to remain in place, then everything else follows that? Or is there going to be some sort of a departure up here, or is all that getting replaced? And next, though, a section on this, beginning this interior work and seeing what is happening in there and what's going to happen in there. So now, as we begin to look at some of these interior possibilities and permutations, this number down here is essentially the file name that you can refer to if you see something in the film and want to refer to it. Keep your eye or just note this file name down here, which is generally the date with some letter. I started with here at the entry, and we need a closet in there, and that's going to be the dining up in here. One of the things that concerned me at the start was this not really having its own window or anything like that. So we have the front door to work with as far as that goes, and there's other things down the road as well. But starting with this entry dining, you had said you have a 5-foot table, and when it's open, 5 by 5 when it's open, and a lot of times that could be a 4 by 5. I do not show that here, but I'm showing a 5 by 5, and that 3-foot clearance, that is considered arising and departing. So a person can arise from this chair and depart out here with 3'0" clearance. And so there are 2 or 3 different options really to get a closet at that front door. And so right away I felt like this was getting kind of tight to still get a closet or some sort of entry closet in here and give it some separation from this entry area. So I sacrificed some of the front porch distance there. That went down from 5'4" to 4'3", so I picked up almost another foot inside because of this closet, trying to consider the closet there. This is one of them that I didn't care for. This was one I definitely didn't care for. And then really this is probably the most viable, is this sort of an arrangement here. And I have this is your typical 3-foot door. And I mean, I'm showing it as a big full glass door. You may want to specify that entry system, but I'm showing it with a 2-foot wide side light. So now we have a lot of light coming in here, and it's kind of situated on this table as well. So that really satisfied me as far as this feeling like this table was going to be too inside, was this sort of an arrangement here. Now you could have the door could swing in like this, but this is definitely better because now your storm door swings back against this wall. There's only a room for 1 rocking chair here and 1 rocking chair here, guys. So compared to what you had with that big wide long porch. And then at the very end, because you have a growing family and presumably you're going to stay here for a while, I felt like this was getting just a little tight in this whole area here. So I added another foot to the length of your house, going to 55'8" from 54'8". And even with that and these minimum clearances back here, but when this is a 4-foot wide, and I don't know how you would situate that 4 foot this way or that way, but I just added the extra foot for the moment, just in case. And whether that probably impacts these doors at some point, if you did push that extra foot, certainly it adds a little bit more room to the porch. And so with this footprint, that presumably is your existing slab. I don't know yet whether that's that far back or whether it's in 3 or 4 or 5 inches, this pink part, but that's the part you would be trimming off. Back here you have to trim off a little bit more to get your footing in. But now this last bit, I just want to cover a few things here. This is a section view looking that way through here at these ceilings. Now this was where we had flat ceiling in the kitchen and flat ceiling in the great room, 9 foot here and 8 foot here. And I wanted to do a few things just looking at this, just to see what would work. And we can actually, if we wanted to just go 9 foot on that whole corridor through here, this whole thing was 9, or possibly this whole thing was 9, then that can actually be framed with just 2x10s like this, 2x10s. And the reason this occurred to me is up here, the ridge beam, it can have support here, 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 and then just stretch across here. So that ridge beam is not going to be a big, huge beam, because it doesn't have to span that far, because it's interrupted by the chimney, which it can bear on that if we arrange for it. So if we wanted to do that in 2x10s, that can all be done just in 2x10s. And I would think really that the cost of these two 2x10s every 24 inches on center should be probably less than the cost of a truss across that. That gives you your highest ceiling if you want it, and that's probably, well, it's 9, it's probably 13 feet high. I'll let you know. But then the next arrangement, and this is a little funky right now because I haven't adjusted these walls on either end. But just to start, you could use a scissor truss across there, and then you have this peak. And I know this peak is about 11 foot 8 from the floor to the peak here. But those are just some things to think about, and some things I'm going to be just looking at briefly so that we can see what it looks like from the inside when you do these various things. Actually, I've taken some turns around this inside floor plan with the camera, and this is really nice with all this windowing here. It really is nice. The rear still concerns me pretty much because we have to get a kitchen in here and laundry facility. So let me know your thoughts on that. I could tell your kitchen diagram. I can understand that. Refrigerator, range, sink, pantry over here. But I think that's all for now. I just want to, oh, I know one other thing. Let me know what your plans were for this fireplace. Was this going to be a wood burning fireplace, or was this going to be just gas logs? So let me know on that, and I'm going to include a brochure from a siding place that shows this vertical siding that I like anyway, for you guys maybe to look at some colors, textures, and then let me know on that garage roof whether it's going to be matched or everything gets replaced. I think that's all for now. I'll be back in touch, I'm sure, in a day or 2 or 3.